Pause on it! What's going on, guys? Long time no video, of course. That's, glad to be here making one. Glad you guys are here watching it. I'll do a quick, like, minute or two update on just, you know, kind of what's going on. So, I haven't uploaded a video for a long time, and it's been about 3 months. And coincidentally, that's the same amount of time that I've been back to work after the initial quarantine. So I just really have been working a lot and haven't had a lot of free time outside of work. And those of you who are a little bit older will know that, and this is a piece of advice for you that are younger too. What you have to do with your life, it doesn't matter whether you work 200 hours. I mean, that's not possible. Let's say it doesn't matter whether you work 100 hours a week, which is about the upper limit. Maybe 120 is the upper limit. Whether you work 100 hours a week or whether you don't work at all and do nothing and you're unemployed and you don't work and you don't go to school, you don't do anything, regardless of how you spend your time, you need to find a balance that allows you to do it long term. A good analogy is like a diet. A lot of people go on a diet. I'm doing air quotes right now, and they drastically reduce what they eat, and they only eat, you know, saltine crackers and soda water for like 60 days or I don't know what it is, ridiculous, but that's not sustainable, meaning they can't do that for long periods of time. They can't do that for the rest of their life. So ultimately, it's going to fail. So life needs to be the same for you. You need to find a balance of things that you do in your life which will allow you to do it for a long period of time, because that's basically what happens when you get out of school, when you get out of college. You're just like, okay, well, now I have to work for 40 years, and that's really it. So you have to work for 40 years. So you have to plan. You have to do things that allow you to find enjoyment in life. Not even necessarily enjoyment. They just have to do things that don't make you miserable. And so in my case, I've been working a lot, and I just haven't felt like playing any video games, and I haven't felt like making any videos. I've been unmotivated to do that because I'm working a lot, and I'm just sort of keeping my mental state balanced by, you know, just hanging out, just kind of doing nothing, just hanging around, being bored. I actually enjoy being bored. I like being bored like at least once a week, because that means that I have enough time to be bored, which means that I know I'm not overdoing it. And so for something like this, I'll just be real with you, you know, because I don't make any money off of this, and it takes me a few hours to make a video. I know you've all seen those YouTubers who put up a video every day. People put up a video every day that's just the same regurgitated garbage that they've said all week, and it's because they just have to. They grind it out, and they just want to put as much stuff out there as they can. And I don't believe in that. I believe in making something that's at least good, decent quality and has some value to it. So in this case, even if we just left it there, even if I just left it there in my voiceover, there'd be some value out of it, because, you know, it's important to balance your time so that you can do what you're doing for years without getting worn out or strung out or angry, or without taking it out on your loved ones, because that's really what it's about, is, you know, keeping yourself at a balanced place where you can wake up in the morning and not be upset, you can go to work and not hate your life, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I'm making this video because I've sort of gotten through this period, and I've sort of reached a period where I've decided that if I want to keep gaming like I have been, I need to get some value back out of it, because I've started you know, doing some investing and stuff like that, and it really has sort of made me realize that, you know, time is wasted time. If I just sit and play Forza for 7 hours on a day off, that's you know, that's wasted time. I could have gone to work and made a bunch of money. So I'm trying to look at this from a sort of time investment perspective, I guess. So I can justify putting time into playing games if I make videos and share content with you guys. So that's what I'm going to try to do. You know, of course, my uploads might still be a little sporadic, or they might become really consistent. I don't really know. We'll have to find out. But I'm starting to get really psyched for this next gen of consoles. So let's just transition right into that. And it was a smooth transition, but then I had to go and tell you that it was a transition, and I messed it all up. But I'm getting really excited. I have been excited, but then the last few months I've just been sort of not excited. Just seeing the state of things and seeing the way everything's going down right now has really made me sort of not excited for it. Made me sort of think, like, what are we really doing? And that's kind of where I've done this soul searching the last few months, is like, what am I really doing with my time? Am I really going to spend all this money on a new TV, this new OLED TV? Am I really going to spend all this money on this new console? and all these new games, and for what? Just to sit around and play games and then get nothing out of it? You know, to think about how many hours I've put into playing Call of Duty over the years, I could have become a pilot. I could have become a commercial airline pilot, which is ridiculous. You know, they're responsible for hundreds of lives at a time, and, you know, I can just brag and say I got top 500 on Call of Duty all time on Black Ops 3. That's basically my claim to fame. That's all I can say. So it really just made me look at it and go, you know what, there needs to be more to this here. There just needs to be. And so that's what this is. You know, I like editing videos. I like making the content. I love doing the audio levels and all that kind of stuff. I know that sounds kind of funny, but I did take classes for that when I was younger, when I was still in school. I did take video tech classes, video editing classes, broadcasting classes. So I have all that knowledge, and I do still like all that stuff. So it's a perfect way to blend together two things that I like and, you know, get some value back out of it. And especially because I'm just sitting around watching stupid, like, you know, about that though videos, or like cat videos, or like motorcycle crashes, you know, like that's not providing any value to my life. So, you know, here I am doing this, but starting to get re-excited for the consoles. And, you know, the reason is it's just gaming the last few years has really been not good. And there's two reasons for that. I think, you know, it's probably 70-30 on the reasons. I would say 30% of it is the hardware that's in the consoles right now. It's weak hardware, and it's very outdated. And as a developer, you know, you have to feel inspired to create something and want to create something that people want to play, and something that's groundbreaking, something that pushes the envelope. And if you're talking about, you know, really weak hardware where, you know, 80% of your time, you spend 20% of the time developing the game, and then 80% of your time developing ways for the game to run on these hardware, like, that's probably not very, you know, inspiring for the developers that are working on those games. And to think about just where the hardware is and how unbelievably bad it is just not, it's out of touch, and it's just made it so that developers don't really have the tools they need. You know, I mean, think about it this way, you know, basketball's going on right now. I'm not really a basketball fan, but what if the basketball was a really crappy basketball with bad texture, and it was never inflated the same each time? Like, don't you think that the Russell Westbrooks and the LeBron James of the world would have a hard time getting up and motivating themselves if every time they shot the ball it behaved differently, and every time they try to dribble it, it would bounce differently and stuff? Like, you have to be inspired with good equipment and good tools to do the job that you want to do. You know, what if the rims weren't always the same height? Or what if, you know, teammates changed every week or something? Like, they wouldn't want to do it anymore. And with game developing right now, it's a similar pattern, because it's not that things are changing all the time, but it's just things are so weak that the amount of work they have to do to get things to even run at 30 FPS, which is honestly atrocious, it's too much. It's too much. And so, you know, the amount of time it would require them, amount of time required to spend on a game like that to get it optimized and to get it running well it's too much. And we see that because of this developer crunch that they all go through. You know, they spitball the ideas, and they pre-production, and they do all that stuff for a year, and then they start to do the assets for a year, and then they have a year of just real crunch time where everybody works like 60-hour weeks and everybody gets all worn out, and then they release the game, and it's not a good strategy. And it's just, you know, it's a weakness of hardware. If they had a lot of headroom with the hardware, if they had something that was really powerful, then they wouldn't have to worry about this. It's just, you know, like an example with racing, because I'm racing in Forza right now. If you had a car that only had 200 horsepower, there's only so fast you can make that car go. Now, you can spend every waking minute developing tires and tire compounds and different rims and different levels of camber, which is the lean on the tires from the tops to the bottoms. You could spend all your time tuning the suspension and the gear ratios and the ignition sequence and all this different stuff, and the spoilers and the aerodynamics. You could spend all that kind of stuff, but in the end, it still only has 200 horsepower. So when you reach the limit of the 200 horsepower, the only gains you're going to get are by investing heavily in these ridiculously diminishing returns things that will make a difference, but take so long that it's almost not worth it. And that's where we're at with gaming right now. Developers are uninspired. Let's just say this. There's a reason why you haven't seen a new Elder Scrolls game, and it's not because they're just lazy. It's because the hardware is so terrible that they're not going to bother making one, because in order to be ambitious and to be a next-gen jump for the game, they can't do it on this hardware, so they're just not going to do it. And same with Grand Theft Auto. There's a reason why we haven't seen Grand Theft Auto yet. I would imagine that they have now started working on it. The Grand Theft Auto 6, I would imagine it's already in production. They're probably a year into it, because they've had development kits out there for about a year, I would think. About 9 months to a year, so I'm pretty sure that GTA 6 is underway now, which means in 2-3 years we'll get one. It's just part of it. It can't not be part of it. The fact that the hardware is so weak and so it's anemic. The hardware is anemic. It's just so bad that it actually hurts the performance of all games that are on it. I mean, you know, I follow PC hardware every single day, and I built my own, and there's virtually no CPU you can buy on the market today that will not do 60 frames a second in games. Not anything built in the last 5 to 7 years. So it's pretty much a disgrace that these consoles can't even hit 60 frames. They can only hit 30 frames. Certainly not the GPU that's the problem. Especially with the One X and the PS4 Pro. Certainly not the GPU that's the problem. The second part of it, the 70% part, is greed of developers. And I'm not going to say developers necessarily. I'm going to say publishers, because it's really not the developers that do that. And this is pretty much the whole problem with the entire system right now. And that is something that happened years ago with Call of Duty, which was my favorite game, the game I played the most. And so I talked about this with my friends that I played Call of Duty with and people that I played Call of Duty with. And I've even talked about it on this channel before. But really the issue was big money. Big money ruins everything. With Call of Duty, they got to a point where the games were selling so much and were such a juggernaut that they just decided they were going to do their own thing. And they weren't going to provide as much every year as they normally did. And they were going to have other things that happen. Oh, that's a good line. That's not the... So it just started happening with them. And then a few years later, it's happened with all games now. And essentially what that means is every year you get less innovation in the games. And every year you get more greed on the publisher's part. And so big money got involved. And when I say big money, I mean quotes, big money. And big money are like the people that do movies and TV shows. Those type of people. Okay? So Destiny is the best example that I'll come up with for you guys. Destiny was a game that was produced by one of the best studios of our generation, of our lifetime, which is Bungie. And produced by... done for a budget of $50 million over the course of 7 years. So most Call of Duty games, they're big AAA titles. They're basically the best-selling game every year of all games. And they are doing a 3-year development cycle right now. They were doing 2 years for a lot of years. Now it's 3 years. So it took over twice as long to make Destiny. So what that means is for 6 to 7 years, you have to pay all your employees. And you have not created a product. So when you bring in big money, basically what you're bringing in is somebody who's going to loan you $50 million. And then another $50 million to market it. So you're asking someone for $100 million. Those of you who've seen a lot of movies know that this is exactly the case with movies also. The biggest name directors and the biggest budget movies are the ones that usually do well. But they're also the ones that push the boundaries of what's possible. When you think about Dark Knight, Inception, Interstellar, those are all my favorite movies. The Matrix, those are all my favorite movies. And then you look at bigger movies of our lifetime: Titanic, Transformers, Avengers, Jurassic Park. When you look at those movies, you realize they also had huge budgets. Okay, so if somebody's going to loan you $100 million, it's going to come with a lot of stipulations. And the first stipulation is you're not going to do something completely wild outside the box. If you went to someone, and let's say you go to someone in your family and ask them to borrow some money. If you ask them to borrow $100, maybe they'll give you $100. But what if you say, I want to borrow $100 because I'm gonna make a satellite that I'm gonna launch into space out of toothpicks? They're not going to give you $100. So they want to know that what you're going to do with the $100. If you said, I want to borrow $100, but I'm going to make a lemonade stand, because it's supposed to be 110 degrees next week, I'm going to make a lemonade stand, and I'm going to sell lemonade. And I need $20 to mess with the recipe for a week to figure out what tastes good, and then I need $80 for the materials for the lemonade stand. They're going to loan you that because they know they're going to probably get their money back, because that's a sound strategy of business, right? So for these games, for these developers, you know, to come out and say, hey, we want, you know, $50 million to create the next big giant blockbuster game, you know, generation breaking game. First of all, the hardware doesn't exist for that. And secondly, that's a risk. That's a big risk. So what these guys ask for is less risk, because they're putting their money at risk. They want less risk. This is why you see 38,000 Avenger movies, why you see a bunch of Transformers movies, why you see a Call of Duty every year, why you see a Madden every year, why you see, you know, Destiny 2, why you see Gears of War 5, why you see Halo 5, you know, 6, why you see God of War 4, why you see Gran Turismo 5, these are why you see all these things. This is why you do not see new IPs. Games like Anthem, big budget, lot of investment, flopped flat on its face. Every time that happens, it's less and less likely that a publishing company is going to loan that money to a studio or fund that money to a studio to make a game like that. And that's the world we live in, and that's because of big money. Big money is about making a good return, but they're about minimizing their risk as much as possible. So minimizing the risk is giving them lower budgets to make games, smaller teams, lower budgets, less creativity, and more microtransactions. And all of you watching this video know that describes every one of your favorite games that you've played in the last 5 years. Every one of them. It doesn't matter what game it is. That describes your favorite series of games. And I won't even say standalone games, because there's none of those, except for PUBG and Fortnite, but those followed that same path. So what they've done is every game in the last 5 years has been less creative, had a smaller budget, worked the team harder, and put more microtransactions in it. That's been the story of the last 5 years. And the only thing that would have changed that over the last 5 years is if they had more capable hardware, and a couple of development teams could have done something truly groundbreaking and been like, hey, this is a game changer and changed the world. And people go, man, I have to have that game, you know? That's what, you know, Destiny was the first time around. That's what Call of Duty Modern Warfare was. That's what the first Halo was back in 2002 or whatever it was. That's what all those games were. That's what Super Mario 64 was on the N64. You know? That's what games were on the PS2. That's what these games were. They were games that really made you go, whoa, I have to have that. That's game changing. That's what Skyrim did. That's what Grand Theft Auto 5 did. That's what PUBG did. Those are games that you think like, man, I have to have that game. And those haven't existed this generation. It's been Destiny and PUBG this generation. That's it. Fortnite absolutely does not count. Fortnite completely copied PUBG. And it just happened to be more kid-friendly, which means it made more money. You know, there's a reason why PG-13 movies make more than R-rated movies, and why PG movies, well, maybe not PG movies, but there's a reason why PG-13 movies make more than R-rated movies, and that's because they appeal to more kids and to younger audiences. That's what Fortnite did. PUBG has blood and, you know, real guns, and Fortnite has cartoons and dances. So now you know why one made more money than the other, but Fortnite completely ripped off PUBG. Even though PUBG wasn't exactly an original idea, that was the first. So even that, less creativity, less risk, smaller team, more microtransactions. And PUBG became one of the most successful games of all time. It became the 5th best-selling game of all time, you guys. You know who else is on that list? Tetris, GTA 5, Minecraft. Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, the original generation in the late 90s. Those are the games that share, and Wii Sports. Those are the games that share, which shipped with every single Wii console. Those are the games that share with PUBG. PUBG made $1 billion off of sales of the game, and for what? What did they put back into the game? It's just a confluence of events. Crappy hardware sort of started it, because the developers couldn't really make too many groundbreaking games, and so they were like, hey, the publishers were like, we need a way to make some more money off these games because people aren't buying as many games right now because they're not as exciting. So started with the microtransactions, and once they realized how much money they were making, it really went down a rabbit hole. And now here we are. So hopefully these things change this generation. I'm getting really excited. I just bought an OLED. I just bought a CX OLED, a C10, and that's in the mail. And so that'll be here shortly, and that'll be an epic thing. But I'm starting to get really excited. Hope you guys are too. Let me know what you think, and I hope to see you again soon. Check back for my next video whenever that comes out. See you guys later.